Hello, everybody. It is 6 o'clock in California on a Tuesday night, which is when we like to do all things Hypnosis 100 and HPTI with me. And like we've been doing for the last little while, we are every other week, just me talking, answering your questions, and having a dialogue. And the other week, we are doing interviews with HPTI instructors. Now, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and the people who are already here live can see the video, and they see who's joining me, but those of you who are listening don't get to know that yet. And it is Jess Marion. Now, some of you who know a lot about HPTI are saying, Jess Marion is not an instructor at HPTI. What are you doing? And the fun thing is, the really cool news is, yes, she is, or she's about to be. In the last couple of years that HPTI has been around, we've had a really cool faculty, and we still do it. I'm really excited about that. And we've added very few classes. It's been very, very few over the last 3 going on 4 years that we found a class that we want to add, that we've been able to fit in and work well with the people we want to work with. And we're really selective. And so it's really cool to get to say that Jess is on the list of she and the Carsons and this wonderful team of people are going to help with this stop smoking protocol that they've created, that we've just been hearing so many awesome things about. People came up to me, some alumni from HPTI, and they said, you've got to get this program in HPTI. It's exactly what you need. And long story short, we did, and so starting next year, we're going to have a class on stop smoking protocols that is, from everybody I've talked to and the stuff that I have seen, it really is great. And so welcome tonight. Jess, how are you?
Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone at HPTI and everybody at HypnoThoughts who continues to support myself and my co-trainers, business partners, and wonderful friends, Sarah and Sean Carson. So thank you, everybody out there, for all of your support. We really do appreciate it, and we're very excited to be involved. And very happy to be here tonight.
Yeah, and to mention the Carsons, some of you guys might know this. Sean Carson is the co-author of another book that is a textbook at HPTI already. So his work is already in HPTI, and his work is awesome. It's a book he co-authored with Melissa Tiers about 1 or 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. But cool. So before I get into asking you some questions, I just want to double check and make sure anybody in the chat room, does anybody have any questions about Hypnosis 99 or Hypnosis 100? I like to make sure, I don't need to promo any classes coming up. We have obviously classes coming in January, and just get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. I will say this, we have moved graduation. HPTI graduation is no longer in January like it's been for the last 2 years. We are moving it, so it will take place at HypnoThoughts Live from now on, so more people can be involved. So if you are one of those people, we've already contacted you, but just so everyone knows, if you want to be going to the HPTI graduations, some people just like coming to it. We're moving it to HypnoThoughts Live in Vegas instead of doing it in LA in January, so know that. Last chance for anybody to ask any questions about Hypnosis 99 and 100. Going once, going twice. We don't have questions on those things usually when we do interview nights, but I always like to give people a chance. Cool, no questions. Then let's just dig into this. So let's just start with simple stuff. I said this to you a couple weeks ago. And I've already done too much talking, but I said this to you, actually it was a few months ago. You and I had known each other for a while. And I said that you and the Carsons are sort of, to use the metaphor, you're sort of like the Norm Macdonald in comedy. You guys are to hypnosis. People who know Norm Macdonald and who are into comedy know this guy writes incredible stuff and is amazingly talented. And people who are on the periphery don't know him as much. You guys, I think, you get it, you are smart, you guys are well-researched and well-spoken, and I think everybody who looks at your stuff thinks it's great. So my starting off question for you is, why aren't you guys way, way, way more famous in the industry?
Well, thank you so much. That's a really interesting question. I'm sure many people here know, starting out a business is quite the endeavor. In our field, it's definitely not a get famous quick type field. Maybe a couple people who get lucky kind of put like their first product out there and it blows up and they're like world famous. But for most of us, whether it's in the training field or if it's in private practice, it takes time to establish a reputation and to create the type of connections that build a buzz around what's happening. So for us, what really tipped the scale for quite a while, you know, we run our courses in New York City as well as Philadelphia, and we have our community here. But for us, what really took us to the next level was when we began to branch out into the publishing world, and particularly branching out and writing books. So that's our business building strategy in many ways, and our reputation building strategy is through books. And plus, for us, the writing is a passion. It allows us to experiment with different techniques, develop new processes, test it out with our clients, test it out with our students. Writing books for us really allows us to explore deeper aspects of hypnosis, of coaching, of personal transformation. So for us, for myself anyway, I don't really see it as necessarily staying in the role of Norm Macdonald, at least I hope not. I do like the idea of growing business. However, it is a process, and I'm very much so interested in the type of relationships that we develop doing this. I'm far more interested in developing long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationships with other hypnotists, with other trainers, with communities such as HypnoThoughts. So our tactic for marketing and really getting the recognition out there is slightly different than a lot of the internet marketing that you see these days. We're about relationships, and it takes time to build relationships.
Awesome. I'm really glad that you and I have over the years developed a pretty cool relationship, and we have respect for each other, and I couldn't agree with you more. So I'm glad to see more people in our group of whatever peers we have be committed to the long picture and not just to get rich quick. I think that's awesome. You mentioned the books, and you guys are writing a bunch of books, sort of highlighting specific NLP stuff, right? I mean, that really seems to be the stuff you guys are writing some really cool stuff on. You've got a meta model book, you've got a swish book, right? As well as the quit smoking book that we're basing the course off of.
Yes, right now we have 6 books in the hypnosis and NLP and coaching niches, and another book we just launched in the personal development niche, and a couple more coming up in the hypnosis world. Right now we have a series that is our NLP Mastery series. We have 3 books currently available, which are the Meta Pattern by Sean and Sarah, which I recommend to everyone out there in the hypnosis world. This is the structure to effective change work. We call the Meta Pattern because that's what it was named by John Overdorf, who developed it or co-developed it with Julie Silverthorne. But this really is what underlies all of the hypnotic processes that are successful with clients. So we have these, we have Meta Pattern, we have this Visual Squash, which is a parts integration book, and we have the Swish. These 3 are the NLP Mastery, and these came out of our love of NLP, and we noticed, at least when we teach an NLP practitioner course, we have 12 days with our students, and that's not a tremendous amount of time to go really in-depth and explore the full potential of many of the change work patterns. So the NLP Mastery Series allows us to explore deeply into different patterns and NLP principles while also expanding it out into a broader context. We expand it out beyond the context of coaching, but also into self-applications, as well as using these principles and change work patterns in the business world, whether it's the corporate world or it's in your own hypnosis practices on the business side. Outside of that, we have the Quit book and also Keeping the Brain in Mind by Sean Carson and Melissa Tiers. We also, last month, launched Deep Trance Identification with, it was myself, Sean Carson, and John Overdorf.
I'm really excited about this book. Oh, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. No, I looked at you guys who wrote it, and I looked at the basics synopsis of it. I can't wait to read this book. I think when I saw the title and I saw that it was you guys, I think deep trance identification is a sort of a set of processes, or sort of I don't even know what to call that. It's a platform or building block that you can use. I think DTI stuff is so useful in creating flexibility in a client and establishing resources. And I love the idea of people writing well about this topic that is underrepresented and probably underutilized, but really, really cool. And can I just interrupt you and say, I love the fact that you said 12 days is not enough to get into the really neat stuff. I love that in the trainer. That's somebody who's done their homework. So cool. I'm sorry, I'm interrupted. Keep going.
No, I mean, it's interesting. We always talk about, if I had like my dream course, it would probably go on forever, because there's so much out there that's new and it's cutting edge, as well as the classic approaches to change that, in a 12-day or even an 18-day NLP practitioner course, we can only begin to scratch the surface, which on one hand is a very nice selling point if we're upselling to other trainings. However, my view is that when somebody comes out of a hypnotherapy training or an NLP coaching practitioner training, I want them to have the skills that I know when they sit down with a client or a friend or even themselves, that they're going to be not only a force for good, but they'll also be able to create lasting change. So we start there with a practitioner, and we're limited because people aren't going to sign up necessarily for a course that runs from now until 50 years from now. But we do what we can with the time constraints. And it really is great to have programs out there that not necessarily enforce, but programs out there that encourage students to keep on studying, to keep doing continuing education, and also certification and training programs that are longer than, and this is not to rag on anybody who does this, I have my own views, but longer than a 2-day or 3-day course, and then they say, okay, go out into the world and do hypnosis in a therapeutic setting. I think it's important to really give our students a strong foundation in change work for themselves and for their clients, and on the business side as well. A talented or a skilled change worker, that they already have a foot ahead in terms of building a successful business, because they're going to get referrals and they're going to get reviews. So it's very important to me, and it's one of the things that really led to developing the QUIT protocol, is this idea of, if I could take what I know and put it into a form that we can say, okay, here's the training, go out there and start working with clients, and I am very certain that those who take this course and those who've read our book, when you use these processes, you're going to be effective. Excuse me. I don't know any of our students who have not had anything but success with this. In fact, when we just wrapped up filming and editing for the course, which will be available in the new year, and our editor, our film editor, is or was a smoker, and he said, as he was going through it, I don't know anything about hypnosis, but as I was watching this training, I didn't want to pick up my cigarettes. So I am convinced that you put skilled change workers out there, you give them tools, you give them processes, and also a larger understanding of how people function in the world, how people's minds work, then it really is a good thing.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think you look at what's happened with hypnosis training, or what's happening, I should say, and there's such an opportunity to make things modular and specialty-based once a good foundation is created. And so you get that good foundation, and then you can get these modular online pieces that need to be supplemented by in-person stuff, absolutely. But for us, looking at helping practitioners get started or get to the next level, stop smoking is such a nuts and bolts, just bread and butter thing that every hypnotist is expected to know how to do. But a lot of them aren't, and they feel extra pressure to be great at it because it's supposed to be a slam dunk. When you're talking to your students, preparing for this book and this course, what kind of feedback are you getting there from the more experienced practitioners?
Yeah, you raise a really wonderful point, because when I became a hypnotist, I had the same expectation that smoking cessation should be easy. The client should just come in and stop smoking. Until I saw my first stop smoking clients. And I had this moment because I had hypnosis training, but I hadn't had a specialty training in how to work with smokers. I had this moment where I went, oh, I better get good at this. And it was, for me, a tremendous learning curve. And to be able to create something where students don't have to go through that same learning curve, where we can fast track them to success, is really important. And in terms of the feedback we get from practitioners who've been in the field for a long time, whether it's the feedback for the Quit book or it's our students who come to the live trainings, each and every one of them has given us the same type of feedback as I mentioned. How could anybody go through this process and stay a smoker? And to be honest, we've had a number of very seasoned professionals say, you know what, I was never trained how to specifically work with smokers. It never occurred to me to do things like listen for their meta programs or use both an away from strategy for away from cigarettes and then towards a positive outcome. And these are some of the things that we teach in the course. We spend a lot of time in the course talking about the initial phone consultation or in-person consultation before we ever officially start the client-hypnotist relationship. And the skills there, while we put it in the framework of working specifically with smokers, it really goes way beyond that. This is how to ensure that not only are you selecting the right clients and the right clients are selecting you, it's also about starting the change work then and there, outside of the traditional hypnotherapy context. And for our seasoned practitioners, they seem to get the biggest pop out of that, because it's something that a lot of other hypnosis schools out there that we're aware of, at least from what our students have told us, they don't teach this. And for me personally, it's so important, because this sets up the entire hypnotic interaction. That first initial phone call or that first initial meeting is so important, and it's one of those nuanced skills.
Yeah, there's so many layers into that thing that that initial interaction, whether it be in person or on the phone, there's so much nuance that, when done right, sets you up for success. And when you do that, I like to make fun of Michael Elner for this. He's got things set up now just based on how he gets through his referrals and who comes to see him and what his initial setup is, that he has created so much freedom for himself as a practitioner that he can do whatever he wants with his clients. And he has so much more freedom than the average hypnotist because of how he sets things up. And learning how to refer clients to him effectively was a real interesting thing. And I know now how to, if someone's in his area, to refer clients to him, listening to how he does it, learning how to refer to him so that it works for him. And this is a whole set of skills that really isn't taught. I think you're absolutely right. And if you never wanted to work with a smoker, but you learned that piece from this program, your private practice is really transformed.
Yeah, because for me, at the end of the day, I've been doing this long enough where I don't want to work with everybody. There are certain people who call or email or come into the office where it's just not going to work in terms of our relationship. And when I first started, I wasn't so comfortable with following my intuition about that. And it made life really stressful and really difficult.
It makes for a harder life, yeah.
Yeah. And in this profession, it doesn't have to be hard. We have plenty of other things to worry about and devote our energy towards. The working with clients, it should be fun. And it's not always easy, but that doesn't mean it's hard either. It can be challenging, but at the end of the day, how to handle that initial interaction for me is so important, because you're absolutely right. How that is handled sets the frame for the entire session. So, I set a lot of pre-frames with my clients around neuroscience, and this gives me tremendous freedom. I can ask them to do some really strange things in terms of visualizations and say, hey, it's neuroscience. This is what's happening in the brain. This is why we're doing it. And that gives tremendous freedom. And setting that foundation happens in the initial phone call for me. I want to hear from the prospective client that their state's in the right place, they're ready for this change, and they're willing to step out of their comfort zone to try something new and get it.
You brought up neuroscience, which I'm very nerdy, so I love talking about it and researching it on my own. But I've noticed, and I don't know if it's just something that sort of I've noticed and it's a coincidence or if it's true, that people who seem to be coming from the John Overdorf camp and who are fans of his tend to be very interested in the neuroscience. Is that a coincidence or is that true? I mean, I know you definitely like his work.
Yes, it's definitely not a coincidence. This is a part of the lineage that myself, Sean Carson, Sarah Carson, and Melissa Tiers also come from. This John Overdorf, who his background, he was a psychologist, a counseling psychologist for years. He's a very talented musician, and he has a deep passion for neuroscience. And you'd have to ask him about where that started. I'm not really sure. However, it's definitely funneled down. And for myself, to know what we're doing isn't just kind of like airy-fairy magical stuff. That's so important, that everything that I do in a session with a client, there's a reason behind it. There's a mechanism that I want to trigger in the brain to help the change happen for the client. So this is both for the client's benefit so that they can go along with whatever interesting and new and fun exercises that we'll be doing together. And for myself, it's important because it's about confidence. If I know that there is a scientific basis for what I'm doing, it drives the session so that what I know that the processes that my unconscious mind is coming up with, these are founded on an understanding of neuroscience. The idea that, for example, Hebb's law, neurons that fire together wire together. When we want a change to occur, at some point within the process, the client needs to be in a good state and has to look back at the old trigger for the negative state and feel how it's different. We want to get the different neural networks to begin to light up at the same time so that in their brain they can't do the problem in the same way anymore. And this is just one example. So for me, it's about confidence as a hypnotist, knowing going forward that this stuff has a foundation, and it also creates the space for fun in the session. And I found, and I know Sarah and Sean have mentioned this as well, for our clients, whether you could take like the most new agey client in the world or the most straight-laced corporate executive in the world. When we set the foundation of the session in neuroscience, people are fascinated by how the brain works. These are the most powerful sets of metaphors that I know of.
It's interesting. Talking about one of the things you just said was not just about setting the frame, but in terms of development of new material and why that's so useful. I remember years ago I was talking with a hypnosis instructor, and I was maybe 3 years into my career, so I was very new. And I was asking her these questions. I said, well, how does this work, and why does this work on a number of things, whether it was regression or parts or future pacing or whatever it was. Saying, how does this work? Why does this work? How does this work? And she said, Scott, you really need to stop trying to figure out how all this stuff works. It's just like a light bulb. You flip a switch and it turns on. You don't need to know how it works to just trust the lights are going to turn on. And I said, but what if you want to make better light bulbs? And she had never thought of developing and building. And one of the coolest things about our profession, or our industry, I don't know if profession is an accurate word for what we all are. I don't know how many of us are professionals. But one of the coolest things about hypnosis and the art of hypnosis is that we do get to create. And it's not just creative. It is, of course, artistic and creative. But the best, I think, food, the best art comes from an understanding of the medium, and this is the medium. And I love that when you're taking something as simple and allegedly slam dunk as quit smoking, and you bring the science in and let people know why is this happening? I really think as a gateway drug for hypnotists and hypnosis students, realizing that you can be this smart and this educated about the profession, I really think this this QUIT program is a gateway drug for getting other hypnotists to realize that being educated is cool. So I just applaud you guys for doing that. Switching topics a little bit, you mentioned a little bit ago, and I already knew this. You've got a place in Philadelphia and New York, like Manhattan or something like that, right? What's up with the two locations? What is there a big difference in clientele? Just so people understand what it's like experientially for you to be in two locations as a practitioner.
So our training center is in Manhattan. We have run some courses in Philadelphia. So I think it's good to make a distinction between the training side and the private client side. On the private client side, when I first started my practice, I started in Philadelphia, so I still maintain a clinic there. I'm there a few times a week, and then the rest of the time I'm up here at our center in Manhattan, where we do our larger classes and really the majority of our projects and the bulk of our work. So on the private client side, in terms of demographics or differences in clientele bases, for me it's been pretty similar. People are people. People have stress, people smoke, people want to lose weight, people have interesting problems. So there's not so much a difference there. I do find that on the training side, the markets are very different. New York is a much larger market, and the type of person who's looking for training tends to be slightly different. Most of our students in Manhattan are already professional coaches or hypnotists. We have a lot of social workers, neuroscientists, medical doctors, and psychologists and psychiatrists who've come through our doors. Versus when we've run some trainings in Philadelphia, it's been more of kind of a personal interest, personal development type.
So interesting. Wow,
And this is a broad sweeping statement, I know.
Of course, but that's the pattern you're seeing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So for the people who are listening or the people who are here, and by the way, we have 15 minutes left. So if you guys want to ask Jess some questions, get them ready. For the people who are in this in the period of their career where they're trying to get enough clients to pay the bills, or they have enough clients to pay the bills, but they haven't transitioned into project work, you know, where they can see enough clients in 3 days to pay the bills, and then they're writing books or doing any of that stuff or making trainings or that development. What's the development of a program like the QUIT program take? What's creating that look like?
So it really depends if the project is going to result in a training or a book or an audio video product or all of them. So it depends on what the hypnotist's focus is, but generally speaking, if you're a hypnotist out there and you have experience and there's something that you are passionate about and you've seen it work, you know you're good at this, and you have something amazing to share with the world, it doesn't matter if you're not raking in the millions yet. Go ugly early is a saying that one of my colleagues, Igor Ledohovsky, said to a group once. This is true in terms of product development. Don't wait. Get started. Follow your interests. Keep seeing your clients because we have to pay bills. And there's definitely a time management side of that. However, if, for example, you're writing a book, write a couple pages a day. Write a chapter a week. Don't pressure yourself into having to have it all done in 3 days. It's just not realistic. I'm notorious for this. I will set a goal, and I want a major project, and you can ask Sean and Sarah about this, done by a specific date, and then it is inevitable that something crashes with the technology, or the editor gets back and they say it's going to take another week. But the important thing is setting a realistic marker in terms of time frames and start today. Now, I'm not sure if you wanted like more specifics into how to do product development, or does that kind of answer your question?
I was just curious what your take on it was. Yeah, I mean, how much of your time does product or course development take?
most of my time these days is in development. It's in product development. It's in training. And I still see clients because my firm belief is that if I'm going to be a trainer and I'm going to be creating products, I need to keep seeing private clients, because if I don't, my skills get rusty. And for me, there's a little bit of an incongruence for somebody to be training students but not working with clients. So I want to keep working with clients. Plus, I find the work rewarding. There is this natural high that happens when you wrap up a session with a client and they are beaming and absolutely transformed. And their life is transformed and changed for the better. And it's because of the time that they've spent with you. That's magic. So I definitely don't want to give that up.
Yeah,
oh, thanks. On the other hand, the product development and the projects allows me to pursue the intellectual interests that I have, as well as branching out to a much larger audience. Have someone send us an email or write a review on Amazon about Quit or any of our other books, and they say, wow, you know, I took this and I helped a difficult client stop smoking. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And it's so fun because you have to, you know, you're balancing two great things where you're balancing, you know, helping people and getting to see that beaming face with, you know, knowing that you've just helped the person help 20 people. You know, so the balance of that is just an interesting thing that, you know, over the last few years that I've been playing with, you know, the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years or whatever it's been. But I think knowing what that looks like, I think is really useful for a lot of hypnotists. Antonio asked a question in the chat. He said, do you use paid advertising to get clients?
I've gone the pay-per-click route before, and I did Google's pay-per-click, their AdWords. I don't recommend that, especially for somebody new in the marketing world, because it tends to eat up a lot of money very quickly, especially if the ad copy is not so good. We've explored ideas of doing joint ventures with other people. We've used the Facebook equivalent to AdWords, which tends to do a little bit better, especially if you're building a fan base. It's much cheaper than Google, and you get to build a fan base with it. However, in terms of my approach to marketing and advertising, you can do the paid stuff to generate leads, but you have to have somewhere to send them to. Generating leads is fine. However, I would encourage anyone out there considering going that route, whether it's for products or for private client sessions. Check out Ryan Dice. I'm sorry to do like a plug. I get nothing from it, but check out Ryan Dice's work about building sales funnels and strategizing, because in my opinion that's the best way to capitalize on money that goes towards lead generation. And I'm sure there's other great marketing gurus out there. It's just he's the guy that I model and I look to for that type of stuff. But starting out, I wouldn't recommend it. You don't need to. There's lots of great free opportunities for marketing, whether it's through Facebook or Twitter. You can do it through all sorts of different communities out there online. So I think it's important for especially hypnotists in private practice, realize that you're a business person too. I know everyone gets into this because we want to change lives, but we can't change any lives if nobody can find us. So educate yourselves. I know for me it's still definitely a learning process, believe me. But for newbies, I wouldn't recommend it. For people who have an understanding of the internet sales process, then everything I've seen is that it can be a good way to generate leads.
And the other thing you said early that I think is worth repeating in the context of everything you just said, you know, you said, you know, as a practitioner, you're a business person, and it is about developing that reputation. You know, and so it's the difference between, you know, just looking at leads versus looking at sustainability.
Yes.
You know, and Antonio just said a sort of a follow-up comment in the chat about Facebook and, you know, basically alluding to it because people can see what you're doing on Facebook, what that means in terms of your reputation. And private persona and public persona are, you know, those are sort of blending, and that's interesting territory. We only have, we have less than 10 minutes left, so if anybody else has any questions, please type them or interrupt and talk. You mentioned Igor, who's just an awesome guy and has done some very interesting stuff with marketing, that has sometimes been controversial and gotten him into hot water. But everybody who looks at his stuff, and he's from the John Overdorf camp, isn't he? I might be wrong about that.
Yes, he came from John Overdorf School as well.
And I love learning about that lineage. And I think in anything you can see who people have trained with. I don't care if it's martial arts or chefs or anything like that. I think hypnosis is one of the things where we are really influenced by our instructors, and you can see the influences come out in people. And I love watching the people who are coming out of that. Is one of the sort of schools that I've been really, really highly impressed by. And as we've been developing HPTI over the last little while, looking at which programs and which instructors and which schools of thought are creating awesome practitioners and awesome instructors and all that, and that's one where the hit rate is just really, really high. And there are definitely a couple others out there, but that percentage rate is really cool. Is there any reason you think that's happening?
John's a genius. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's absolutely brilliant, and he's authentic, and I think that speaks to a lot of people. He knows his stuff. He's been in the industry for a long time. He has a tremendous amount of experience. He did his trainer's training with Bandler. He was with the Jameses for a while as a co-trainer. He's been around the block. He knows what works and what doesn't work in terms of change work, in terms of creating trainers, in terms of transforming students' lives. And John's incredible. And he's kind of a low-key guy. He's not any of the internet marketing that you may see from some of his students, you won't see from him. He's very down-to-earth, very just kind of laid back, and I highly recommend anybody who has the opportunity to train with him, go train with John. He's phenomenal.
I've never met him. I'd love to. And I'd love to train with him sometime. I'd like to plug your book real fast. The Quit book. You can get it on Amazon. All your stuff people can buy on Amazon right now. Should they buy it somewhere else?
Amazon's perfect.
Great. You can get it on Kindle. You can get the hard copy. People should get this stuff. If you guys want to, like I said, really think of it like it's like giving away the first set of drugs. That's what a crack dealer does and gets everyone hooked. I really think that this is a gateway drug kind of thing. Looking at this Quit program, looking at things that are going to help you with your easy clients that are coming in now, builds towards helping with more interesting, complex issues. Larry Butler just said, what is the difference between the two Quit books?
Two Quit books.
There's
if you're looking on Amazon, so that Amazon has been, this is not us, Amazon has been having some tech difficulties these days, and third-party vendors, and this is a common practice, buy people's books and then they resell them for extravagant costs. So you'll want the one that has the 5-star reviews. I hope
look at you and your 5-star reviews.
That's right.
Yeah. I didn't know Amazon was doing that. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, buy the cheaper version because she gets the same amount no matter which one you buy. So just instead of buying the more expensive one, buy all of the cheaper ones for the same price.
The other thing that actually Sarah was very kind enough to remind me about, we just launched our 7th book, which is for smokers. That's called I Quit. That has a blue cover. So if you're looking at Quit versus I Quit, you want the one with the orange cover. That's the one for hypnotists.
So Quit is for hypnotists, I Quit is for the general public.
Yes.
Ah, there we go. I'm glad we clarified that.
Yes.
That's what Larry was asking about, and Hillary was there to say what you were saying in writing as you were saying it. Awesome. Any other questions? We have about 3.5 minutes left. I should also mention we don't yet have dates locked up for when this class is coming to HPTI because it's still with the editor and taking slightly longer than we expected. We want to get this class up and going immediately.
It's actually being mailed to you guys this week.
That's what I hear. It's one of those, the check is in the mail sort of things. It'll definitely be in the first quarter of the year. We'll get it up January, February, March, and it's going to be fun. And as soon as it gets up, we'll let you guys know. Let's see. Yay, sounds great from Hillary. Yeah, this is just so much fun. Are there any other things that you want to discuss, Jess, that I didn't ask about?
I just have kind of one thought to leave to the viewers, the students out there. I've seen in our industry people kind of dismissing stop smoking because they think it's easy. So it's like, oh, it's just a stop smoking client, like no big deal. I'd encourage you to, if you've encountered that opinion, to let that go, because in my view, it is the most important piece of change work you can do as a hypnotist. You are saving a life. You absolutely are. Smoking kills 1 in 5 people in the U.S. every year. It's astonishing. These clients are playing Russian roulette with their lives. And to take that away from them, to transform them to the point where it's not just that they don't want the cigarette, but you've transformed them to the point where they know that they are empowered to never pick it up again. I can't think of a greater gift to give to somebody. So value the work you do because it's so important.
That's awesome. We should leave it there. We're going to finish a minute or two early because I don't think we can say anything better than that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the attitude you have about being a professional, and your team. You as a representative of the Carsons and everyone there. You guys are awesome, and I am so glad that you guys said yes and want to be on the team at HPTI, because this is something we're really excited to share with our audience. So thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. If I don't talk to you before then, have a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for this opportunity. We really, really do appreciate it. And thanks for being awesome and continuing to promote our industry, our profession, and putting quality training out there and constantly bringing us together. We're very excited for HypnoThoughts Live this August. So thank you so much.
It's going to be a fun one, believe me. Thanks to everyone who came tonight. If you guys liked this class, please tell people on Facebook. We can tell everybody, but they're going to listen to you. Share the video. We're going to put the recording out. Share it, like it, let people know, and they can come too. And if you have anybody who you want interviewed, ask me. If you have questions you want to talk about, email me. Ask me on HypnoThoughts or Facebook. This class is for you guys. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and good night.
Good night.
Thanks so much.
Good night.
Thanks.